Steve, I want us to dive deep on something that a lot of people are struggling with right now. It's like imposter syndrome, but all the cousins around imposter syndrome. A lot of people are suffering out there thinking that they're not good enough, and not having self worth, self respect, and it gets in the way of them living a good life.
Yeah, I love that, and it'll be a little bit more fun today because we have our two new marketing folks here, much younger than us, so we get some unique perspective.
All right, so we've got Will and Shen here with us, new members of our marketing team. They've got some really cool responsibilities. Both of them are super creative and designers. And but we want to go through some of the topics from today, whatever stuck out to you, and go a little bit deeper. So, what's an item that really stuck out for you?
One of the topics that really stuck out to me was the drawing boundaries.
Oh, interesting.
I think I used to struggle with that quite a bit when, especially when I was in college. Um, Especially towards like professors, like, when you make design work and stuff like that, they tend to give back really harsh feedback. But like sometimes you gotta draw some boundaries and let them know, your intentions. And I think I relate to that topic a lot. Yeah.
Boundaries are obviously critically important. Um, I think they're tricky on teams. Building those boundaries where everybody's kind of because everyone's got different boundaries, but if you don't have some form of boundaries, obviously, I mean, you've seen this time and time again, your time and your energy and resources will get, drained pretty thin pretty quickly. Especially the more responsibilities that you start to get into, the number of meetings and phone it could be endless if you don't have boundaries.
Hmm. Well, and hearing about the professor having harsh feedback, I kind of like that.
Hmm.
I kind of like that they have harsh feedback. In that from the idea, not to be hurtful towards someone, um, but if part of their objective is to prepare you for work in the real world and things, when someone's paying you and they're unhappy about things, they're probably going to let you know, and they might let you know pretty directly. So gaining that kind of experience, I think, is good. The second thing is really around, but in anything that's creative, there are iterations, and if your first iteration is outstanding, we have to recognize that maybe at its best, it's only C-level work. And so allowing a door open for that feedback is really important. However, if the feedback's coming back personal, and attacking the person, that's a whole different animal. But if your objective is to create outstanding content or an outstanding image or way visual to convey a point, and that other person's the one that's giving you the instruction of what they're looking for, it's probably important to remember uh, keeping what their thoughts are at the front and center. Said differently, who gets to define what a great husband is? As much as I'd like to define it and just describe myself to a T, it doesn't work that way. It's the spouse's definition of what a good husband is, right? And so if that's the client, who gets to define what success looks like is the client. Even though we might have expertise and insights to add, we don't own that definition. And it's cool to work within that framework.
Yeah, I agree. I always in design school, I always really appreciated harsh feedback, if you want to call it that. Just being honest, like honest, just pure honesty. Because um, I don't want it to be sugar coated. I don't want it to come out. I don't like just give it to me exactly how it looks like, because that's how it's gonna look to somebody, right? So the only way I can improve that is knowing exactly what I need to change. Um, so yeah.
So if we take, so when someone says something offensive to us, do we have to be offended?
No, I think like it depends on the context, obviously, but just don't take anything personal, especially with business or with work. I mean, because 99% of the time it's not personal. Like you don't need to feel that way, and you're going to be able to diagnose whatever situation you're in way better if you don't take it personally. If you view it from a rational or objective lens.
I was just on a podcast, and the person's, I believe the name of it is "It's All Personal," and they try to say that everything was, and so there's a balance to two things, right? Like, so where is that appropriate, and then where isn't it? Um, but I believe what we're really touching upon is that if our identity, if we're associating our personal identity, our core, who we are, to our work, for example, anything critical about the work becomes critical about me. And the healthy piece is to have that separated, because you are more than your work. Your work is just a component of it. And so another person's opinion on something is strictly that. It's literally their opinion on that item in that moment that they were willing to share with you. It's not even true. If that person's in a bad mood that day, could that impact the the uh, the feedback that they give you? And I believe that the answer is yes. So I put a lot less stock around my value and my worth based on what other people believe. And so I believe for young people now, one of the things to do that's really super important is to remember that your self-worth is defined by you, not by others. And to find that value that says, hey, I'm a committed designer. I'm all in. I put together something that I believe represented what the objective as I understood it. And now somebody says, no, I'm way off. Okay, something was misunderstood. Let's go back to the drawing board with that additional feedback. And so that's the way of building something really strong. If you take the plans on how Amazon was going to be built versus what Amazon is today, it's very, very different. It's these iterations and then finding what works and all that. We don't have the answers at the beginning. We just have where we're going to start the journey. And so there's been plenty of times where feedback that I got that I didn't want was very helpful to me. So I don't like to grade it. I don't like to, if it's harsh or not harsh, I try to not have an adjective to describe it. I just call it feedback.
Mhm.
And then what do I want to do with that feedback is up to me.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah. I feel like as long as like it's not personal attack, like what you said earlier, like um room for feedback and room to improve is always necessary, especially in like design or like even in business. Yeah, there's a lot of ambiguity, so that's like a good challenge. But yeah, I would say, yeah, as long as not personal attack on my notes. Yeah.
Name calling, personal attack, blaming, all that stuff. That's all
No
ugly,
pointing fingers, like
right?
you said earlier in the podcast, as long as that's not happening.
Yeah. And people make mistakes, you know. So again, self-worth starts, is just self-worth. Maintaining self-worth is a great armor against other people's
Mhm.
feedback. And when we can look at things through that lens, then we don't come with a warning label about us, like, hey, he's really sensitive. You can't tell him this, you can't tell him that. So Will was talking earlier about the sugar coating.
Mhm.
What is sugarcoating? It's let me make what I'm giving you taste sweeter
Mhm.
than it otherwise is. So that I'm going to trick you into thinking that this is something good and sweet when it's not.
Mhm.
To me, that's manipulative, and I don't like manipulation. And so we kind of go down that path. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting too for you guys in particular. Like in that, when you're talking about design, it is very subjective in a lot of ways. It's not like input A equals result B. It's very nuanced. There's a lot of things we've even talked about that I think a lot of people would have thrown out creative ideas and that people would have tossed it kind of somehow, whether it's a young company or get in there and it blows up, becomes the best thing ever, and then everyone else is copying that. So it is. I mean, feedback for you guys, I think it's important to put it in the context of, unless you've got a proven format and formula or whatever, it's very much, if I was to give really harsh criticism, it would be, I think. That's how I would preface it. It's not a matter of like this isn't good or this is bad as much as like this is how I see it. That way the criticism I can be as harsh as I want. It's just my opinion. So you know, because yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of times, especially in design, where people look at something and go, "What is that?" It becomes the best thing ever. It's very strange.
what's another item? Maybe Will, did anything stick out from you?
Well, you just talked about self-worth and maintaining self-worth. I think that's like vitally important to doing anything. Um, because if you don't have that, you can't do anything, right? Then it goes into imposter syndrome and everything. And I I have personal experience with a lot of people who have imposter syndrome, who suffer from that, who say things to me like I'm not good enough, or someone else deserves this job because they do a better job than me. I'm not, I'm not skilled enough. Even when that's not true at all. And I think when you think like that, it is impossible to succeed. And this is going to get very philosophical, but um, there's science cannot prove that anything exists outside of our own perception, our own mind, right? So there's no way to prove that the world actually exists. You just perceive it, right? So your brain, could just be the only thing that exists and you're just hallucinating everything. We don't know. So what that means is that mind is much more powerful than matter. So then if you can believe, if you truly believe that you're not good enough, that you can't do this, then you can't, because you're creating the world around you in a world where you can't do it, where you're not good enough. But if you have self-worth and you can believe in yourself, even if you just pretend to, you are creating reality around you. You're creating a world where you will succeed. And that's like step one in just believing. And even if you have to pretend, even if you can't even fully accept it, eventually you will get there. You just have to work for it.
Imposter syndrome is looked at as being negative all the time, right? And so we like to bring out the parts that are positive about things, because if it was just evil, we would call it evil. But why does it happen? And then how can it be used for good? And if it does help us towards good, then maybe there's a good element to it. And sometimes people were not very good at something, and then they worked hard and they got better at it, and they just never told themselves that they were better at it. So what used to be an accurate gauge of their skill level by themselves uh, is no longer true. So there's a reset that might be needed within it. So that's a positive of imposter syndrome. What are some other positives of imposter syndrome that you can think of?
Well, it might serve as motivation for some people. If you're not too dejected by it, it can, encourage you to re-examine your work, re-examine your skills, and if you have enough motivation to improve your skills.
Right. Imposter syndrome goes on between our own ears, right? So it's actually the birthplace of a lot of negative self-talk. And we had some videos where we talked about negative self-talk and the impact. And so we got down to the spot of saying, if I said what I think to my kids, it'd be called child abuse, right? And it's like, wow, how do I expect myself to do well if I keep telling myself that ugliness? And so sometimes it's good for the to spark me to make the change. Sometimes I need that little kick in the pants. I need that correction. But staying in the habit of always hearing that can become that self-fulfilling prophecy that I'm not good enough, I'm this, I'm that, I'm not worthy. And what's cool is if you think about that, anything that diminishes a person in an ongoing manner like that, we know is unhealthy. And that's the part that we need to surgically carve out of that. So there are some good to take out of it, not much, but there is some good in it. It is a signal that, hey, maybe I've outgrown what I used to see as my capabilities or what else, whatever. Um, but yeah, there's always an opportunity to find good in a situation.
I think like self-criticism is definitely a skill that you can improve and learn to get better at. And it's a balance between being criticizing yourself and analyzing your mistakes or shortcomings, and then also but not being too hard on yourself, not letting that turn into depression or demotivate you in any way.
Let's be precise in our topic. What exactly is imposter syndrome?
All right, well, I'll read it off to you. So, imposter syndrome is not a recognized psychiatric disorder and is not included in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It is considered a psychological experience characterized by feelings of self doubt and fraudulence despite evidence of competence.
Okay, great.
Hmm.
So we're actually talking about a divide uh, that it is inaccurate. So the skill is higher than the recognition of,
Mhm.
right? And so this is a great point. If we're going to use that as a motivator, we can.
Mhm.
The idea of not telling ourselves the truth, I have a problem with,
Mhm.
right? That's that kind of false humility. Oh, the presenting of presenting information in a way that makes it appear humble or kind of like no, it's
Mhm.
not giving something its appropriate due. It's actually unjust. And what do you do when you see someone being unjust to another? Right? Is that behavior that we want to imitate or what we want to do? So I believe there are elements of it, right? If that is what's needed to get you motivated
Mhm.
to get in the direction that you want to, I can understand it, but I don't really condone it.
Mhm.
I can understand it, but I don't condone it. I don't like to trick ourselves. I like us to deal with ourselves honestly.
Mhm.
And so this is a great, like, quick. mm, We need a healthy relationship with the truth,
Mhm.
and telling ourselves things that are not true to change our behavior and all of that. It might work in the moment, but the long-term impact of that might be a lot more detrimental than one may think.
Yeah, so it's a form of lying to yourself. Imposter syndrome is because you're lying. You're better than what you think you are. And so yeah, I would agree that using that as a motivating factor, you are lying to yourself. I feel like that can come back to bite you if you do it for too long and let that kind of get out of control. Just go crazy eventually. So I agree with that. Um, but I think there's a real. I think it's much better to be have confidence and a positive attitude as motivation than it is to like do anything that's negative. Anything like that would be like, the self-doubt that drives you. I think instead of doing that where having like an affirmation saying like I can do this, I am, capable or whatever. I think that is much more productive and I think would serve anyone better than a negative affirmation or something negative to motivate you.
I know that sounds good, but studies have been done where and proven that fear is like the strongest motivator. And so sometimes we have to put ourselves into that position of bringing the fear of what we're afraid of. And so it though it's good in our interactions with others to support them, build them up, to build up ourselves, to look at fear or negativity as being evil. Those are things that we have to mature our approach to. So, for example, should fear drive the car, right? So it's an emotion, but do I want it behind the wheel? And then people, once they think about it, they say, well, no. But if we're on an icy mountain, going around and climbing, I think fear should be behind the wheel. So there's appropriate time and place, and so we're given fear not as a punishment, but it's meant to be something useful. And if you're afraid of not delivering to your client, and therefore you over deliver on something or whatever, that motivation could be what helped you save the account. But we just want to do it with our eyes open. We want to do it with our eyes open. Like, hey, I'm afraid this isn't going to work. I believe that the right thing for me to do is this. This is what I want to do. So we want to get more comfortable in that direction. The the imposter syndrome, the part of the danger to me is that it shows up like it's humble. I'm not good enough. I'm not ready. I'm not prepared. And that sounds like someone's being vulnerable and presenting themselves in that way. But you're missing the whole point of it, right? If it's inaccurate, it's inaccurate. And then to coddle things that are not true and to promote that and to support that and to say, hey, your path to getting my support is by lying to me. Not that we're doing that intentionally, but that's the cycle that we're beginning. And so I go back to the same piece that says, I want to have a very healthy relationship with the truth. I want to be able to talk to myself accordingly. If I did wrong, I want to see that it was wrong. And anything that we have to do to keep people from hitting that point of despair becomes important. So I don't want anybody, you don't want anybody to do something tragic, right? And so despair, it's not the worst sin, but it's the most dangerous one. It's the one that makes people feel like they have no way out to the point where maybe they would consider ending their life. And so I would rather all kinds of terrible things, let them lie to themselves, let them do whatever they need to make sure they stay out of despair. As long as you're out of despair, now where is the person? And then how do we help them forward? And hopefully the truth and honesty, care for them, sharing that stuff for them, not against them, will all go in the right direction.